do? What are you working on? What are we talking about? The who, what, where, why, when, how? I'm lost already. I don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense to me. It's over my head, Marty. Okay, let me break it down for you. We're trying to facilitate the passage of new federal legislation. So what specific quantitative and qualitative research frameworks are going to be required to establish a credible evidence-based link between multi-decade closed-loop atmospheric exposure on a submarine and supposed or alleged or investigated chronic health outcomes in aging submariner populations? How can researchers apply longitudinal, predictive validity, and data triangulation to accurately quantify the delayed health impacts of the atmospheric cocktail found in American submarines? And we're specifically addressing a 40 to 80 year manifestation window that essentially starts in 1947 to today. This is 2026, so we're at 79 years. That's what we're trying to do. All right, let's take a look at that. I've got my ORCID ID here, my email to contact me. This project, this research does have a DOI. It's on ResearchGate. And a license if you want to use my imagery. I've got the CC by ND 4.0 license to use any of my imagery or reproduce it. I've got some generative AI and technical representation statements here on AI and a security and technical disclaimer. And I want to thank you for inviting me into your mind to present today. I was very happy essentially to enlist in the American Navy. A little bit about me: at the age of 17, and I now hold a 30-year retired certificate. I'm a nuclear submariner, and I first went and qualified after graduating submarine school in Groton, Connecticut in 1984. I went to boot camp in 83. I received my submarine warfare pin in 1985 after 10 months of study. And I was on the USS Sunfish, Sally Sunfish, the Funfish, and later served on a total of 6 submarines. And as a career Navy sailor, I served in the Atlantic and Pacific fleets and many of the world's oceans and seas. I'm a dual sailor, both fleets. I lived in Europe. I lived in Asia for a long time. I lived in Honolulu, Hawaii, at Pearl Harbor, and I became a command duty officer, CDO qualified, under Admiral Joseph J. Kroll, Commander Submarine Group 7 and Commander Task Force 54 when I was living in Yokosuka, Japan for many years. And that was in 2000. And yeah, I was responsible for water space management across half the Earth and amongst about 150 nations, ships, and submarines that were moving around at any one night. So pretty massive, not only nuclear, but all those different ships and submarines from all those countries. And I think the USS Charlotte most recently torpedoing a ship shocked a lot of people worldwide. A lot of people did double takes like, what are you talking about? An American submarine torpedoed a ship and put it on the bottom of the ocean and killed people. And folks drowned to death. What are you talking about? We're talking about American submariners have long operated as a silent vanguard of the global maritime security force, and that legacy was forged during World War II, when the bubbleheads, as we call ourselves, comprised only a fraction of the Navy and decimated the entire Imperial Japanese merchant fleet and effectively choked off vital enemy supply lines. And today that legacy of decisive unseen power projection continues into the modern nuclear submarine fleet. And a stark reminder of the enduring capability occurred recently in March of this year, when that attack submarine USS Charlotte utilized a Mark 48 advanced capability torpedo to sink the Iris Dina in the Indian Ocean, far, far, far away from the farthest reaches of your mind in the Indian Ocean. And that marked the first time since World War II that an American submarine destroyed an enemy combatant ship with a torpedo. So, yeah, people were shocked. So beyond immediate tactical strikes and anti-surface, and high-quality research isn't defined by getting the results you wanted. It's defined by having a process so transparent and rigorous that even if the results are surprising, they're undeniable. I want you to take this mindset into your work as a master's student. Be as precise with your data as you would be with a high-stakes marketing budget or even a White House state dinner. The credibility of our profession rests on the shoulders of researchers like you who refuse to take shortcuts. And thank you for your engagement today. I have these final bullets for you. I'm not going to apologize for this slide being busy. I could have made it into 4 slides, with big lettering. But I think this is what we're looking at. Rigor is a professional and ethical mandate. Quantitative standards ensure precision and measurement. Qualitative standards ensure depth and trustworthiness. Transparency is the common thread across all paradigms. Synergistic health risks from 130 plus atmospheric chemicals must be assessed as a cumulative stressor. And long-term medical studies must investigate delayed health impacts spanning that 79-year window from 1947. Any discrepancies between Navy oxygen limits and modern OSHA safety standards require legislative reconciliation. And historical oxygen deprivation from the logs that are still on file in boxes using a ballpoint pen creates long-term evidence-based clinical interventions. The cocktail of lube oil byproducts, refrigerants, and secondhand smoke represents a violation of the ethical mandate to protect participant safety, and predictive validity is required to forecast the lifelong medical outcomes of those exposed to closed-loop breathing systems. Verification through audit trails ensures a transparent, traceable decision path for congressional review of veteran claims. And I have extensive references here, the most extensive that have ever been conducted in submarine research. Trust me, I have scanned the world and cost thousands and thousands of dollars that were paid to get this much research for references assembled. You will notice items from the Journal of the Royal College of Physicians in London. You will notice items from the India submarine fleet, the Korean submarine fleet, the United Kingdom submarine fleet. You will notice in here thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of pages and hundreds of thousands of words. But you will see the Royal Society of Medicine, and you will also notice that I have Chinese submarine studies and air studies and breathing studies, as well as South Korean Navy studies and Australian submarine studies. This level of research has never before been assembled in Earth history. I cannot find anything medically in any university, in any repository on Earth that has this much data assembled or references. And this represents over 50 peer-reviewed studies, which is critical, of which the majority of them are very, very recent, within the past couple of years. And you know that that is critical for all of you master students studying for your degree, that you're using peer-reviewed studies, typically within the past 5 years.